governor for 8 years, and I learned three things. That people care about three things.
For over 60 days, federal properties in Portland, particularly the Hatfield Federal Courthouse, have been attacked by violent criminals, violent opportunists, and violent anarchists. I want to be clear. We see in Portland every day non-violent protests. The department is aware of the national dialogue taking place around racism and law enforcement practices, and we continue to support and defend every American's right to exercise their First Amendment rights. The violent activity that I will refer to today is not associated with those protests. They have been deployed for an extended period of time to one city. Local and state officials did not allow local law enforcement, to police the area immediately around the federal facilities, nor in the parks nearby, which violent opportunists used as a staging ground to prepare for their nightly assault on the courthouse and our officers. Local and state officials did not allow law enforcement to make any arrests, I repeat, any arrests, if the violence was directed at federal property. Any operational support from DHS and DOJ law enforcement agencies. To put simply, DHS and DOJ officers, law enforcement officers, civil law enforcement officers, were abandoned due to the dangerous policies by local officials. Cooperation and assistance our federal officers receive in any other city around the country did not exist in Portland. While we have seen a noticeable decrease in violent activity directed at the federal courthouse in recent days, our law enforcement officers are not an occupying force, and they are not serving as a general domestic security agency. They have been deployed for an extended period of time to one city, and that's Portland, and it's to protect federal properties. Our law enforcement officers are not stormtroopers, the Gestapo, or thugs. They are civil law enforcement officers who wear clearly marked uniforms, who are properly trained, who follow established law enforcement procedures and practices, and operate within their authorities.
Other officials that were engaged, if we're going to be looking into the actions that occurred.
It's been suggested that our law enforcement officers should not be in Portland if not invited by state or local officials. And while our preference is always to partner with local and state law enforcement, enforcing federal law is not by invitation. Unlike local law enforcement, we cannot be directed to ignore criminal activity and actions. We will never shy away from our statutory duties.
The video you showed, the things we've seen in Portland are disgusting. So do you think it's a peaceful protest?
As of today, the full augmented DHS law enforcement posture remains in Portland. They will continue to remain until we are assured that the Hatfield Federal Courthouse, as well as other federal facilities in Portland, will no longer be violently attacked. While we have seen a noticeable decrease in violent activity directed at the federal courthouse in recent days, make no mistake, there continues to be violence in Portland.